Bills by the Numbers is back, where we let the stats tell you where the Bills are at. We're presented by FanDuel. Make every moment more. Coming up, headed to the back half of the schedule. Where does ESPN's Football Power Index have Buffalo ranked? And what does it mean? We'll take a look. What's their projected win total with 8 games remaining? Steve will be quizzed on Bills' strong start history. And as always, we'll have our one burning question. Let's get it! Happy you chose to listen to us. Bills Hall of Famer Steve Tasker, Bills insider Chris Brown here with you. And after 9 games played, the Bills at 7-2 are sitting in an awfully good position in the AFC, second in the conference behind undefeated Kansas City, and first in the conference in point differential at plus 87. ESPN's Football Power Index has them ranked 4th overall in the league with a Power Index figure of 6.0 behind Detroit, Baltimore, and Kansas City, who sit 1 through 3. How accurate do your eyes tell you that ranking is, Steve, which measures a team's true strength on a net point scale and expected point margin against an average opponent on a neutral field? Did you get all that?
I'm just going to say, I like that order. I mean, it's pretty good. Kansas City's hard to look away from because of their record. Certainly, Detroit is absolutely off the charts offensively this year. Mm-hmm. Whatever they've got going on, whatever's in the water in Michigan is really serving them well. They are playing at an extremely high level. And Baltimore is there because, and I don't want to take anything away from them because they've put it together an incredible roster, an incredible team, and they are unique in their offensive philosophy and the way they do things. And they are doing it at a really high level. It's not just that it's different. They're doing different really well. Mm-hmm. And so I'm perfectly comfortable with all of that, with that order, with Detroit, Baltimore, Kansas City, and Buffalo.
Yeah, Detroit actually has the best point differential in the league. I think they're plus 110.
Yeah,
they're annihilating teams right now,
are.
And it's because they're playing three-phase football. I mean, even their special teams had a long punt return for a touchdown a week or so ago. So they're doing it in all 3 phases, so tip your hat to them. Let's see if they can sustain it. Baltimore has a weakness. It's their defense, giving up leads, particularly in the fourth quarter. We'll see if it eventually comes back to bite them or if they can fix it. And then Kansas City just has a great defense and finds a way to do enough on offense to win football games, and there you are.
Yeah, they've got a real magician at quarter. You got to tip your hat to Mahomes and his ability to do it. He's so incredibly in the moment, so incredibly intelligent. He'll do whatever it takes to deliver the ball to somebody who can do a little more than he can at the moment, right? I mean, that's all they do in crunch time and when they get into a tough spot. Now, certainly they've got an offense that functions extremely well, but yes, they are you can't get them off the field when they really need to be on the field.
That's the problem. I think they're right near the top of the league in time of possession, if not tops in the league. Buffalo's offense on the Power Index ranks 3rd behind only Baltimore and Detroit, who have been 2 juggernaut offenses this season. We've already alluded to the Bills' point production, as they're the only team with 6 games of 30 points or more through 9 games played. Is there any other NFL offense you'd put ahead of them besides those 2 teams, Baltimore and Detroit? Would you put Kansas City ahead of them?
Offensively, in a vacuum with just the offense, no. I wouldn't put Kansas City ahead of Buffalo offensively.
They don't generate the points the same way as Buffalo
They don't
has.
score enough to be in that conversation. Washington, you could make a case for.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Because they've got big playability, and I'll say, and I'll confess, it's a little bit of flavor of the month. They came from nowhere and are playing extremely well. They're 7-2, just like the Buffalo Bills are, 5-1 in their conference. So I would, Washington's got an argument. But I would say, on track record, I'd put Buffalo up there first.
The only other team offensively that I would consider is Cincinnati. Burrow, I think, has 2 5-touchdown games in the last 3 weeks. And just like they always do, they start out slow, and now they start getting on a heater, and off they go. I don't know if that's going to continue. Maybe it will. But strictly offensively speaking, it's under the hood in Cincinnati. Like, they could
Yeah.
catch fire here and go on a little bit of a run. That's the only other team I would consider.
We've talked about this with the Bills once in a while. Cincinnati has an enormous engine offensively. But like you said, they have, if they're in the garage on a cold day, it's not turning over until it's too late. And then if Joe gets healthy and gets hurt and gets nicked, which he has, had propensity to do, and misses a couple of games, that's just too much for them to overcome. But when they're all on the field and healthy, and it's into the season where they've got some reps under their belt, and then they are fantastic offensively.
Defensively, the Bills rank 12th in the Football Power Index, and we know injuries have again compromised their effectiveness and consistency on defense. Among the contenders ranked higher on defense, Kansas City and Detroit. Baltimore 2 spots behind Buffalo due to their aforementioned fourth quarter collapses and tendency to give up big plays. The question for you, Steve, is whether 12th in defense is good enough to get where they want to get this season.
Well, if you're 12th in defense, I think it comes down to matchups in who you get.
Yeah, you got to draw the right teams.
How the bracket breaks down in the tournament. Once you get to the playoffs, and that's that's out of your control unless you're the one seed. Even so, the Bills are going to win their division. They're going to get a home playoff game, maybe even 2. So, but it means the offense is going to have to play even better. Right. If they score 30 points a game, number 12 defense, yes, you're fine.
Yeah,
you're fine. But it does put pressure on the offense to continue to be productive.
Yeah, and I should mention that's the Football Power Index ranking, which considers a number of factors different from just the hardcore numbers that the league rankings put out each and every week. And I think if the Bills can continue to generate splash plays, I mean, they have at least a takeaway in every game this season, which is leading the league in terms of frequency, then 12th is good enough because you're getting extra possessions for your offense.
They're getting turnovers. That's huge. And they're winning the turnover battle on a consistent basis. That raises your ranking within a game, So
and raises your win probability.
That's right. So we said that too under Leslie Frazier, although they were a top 5 defense, which is significantly statistically better than they are now. Mm-hmm. They were rarely spectacular. They rarely got those game-changing plays. Yeah. This way's a lot more fun and it is. It's more fun. And when you need a timely play and it happens, man, oh man, it's game changer, and it changes the emotion on the team. So yeah, I like this defense in some ways. I got to say, I like this defense at 12, ranked 12, better than I used to like the ranked defense when it was 3 or 4. Sometimes they give you a better chance to win.
Yeah. Special Teams has the lowest ranking of their 3 phases of play at 20th, but Tyler Bass is looking like he's finally coming around and coming out of the, funk that he had been in since late last season. The return game has been solid with rookie Brandon Codrington. Detroit, the only team of the select few contenders that has a better special teams unit in terms of the Football Power Index. Theirs is tops in the league under the metrics. As good as Detroit's been offensively, special teams, top of the Football Power Index as well. Any concern with this ranking of 20th for the Bills on special teams?
Yeah, a little bit. 95% of the field position is dictated by your special teams. And it's important because it has a huge effect on your percentage of possessions that you score on. Special teams plays are weighted. It's the only time you give the ball to your opponent, and that's got to go smoothly. Now, Buffalo's been pretty smooth, and Codrington has made some really good decisions. There's only one time in the entire season where you can think back and say maybe he shouldn't have done that. He caught the ball on the goal line against Tennessee.
Yeah.
On a
lost
punt.
Where he was.
And the ball was up in the air, and the wind. He's moving around. You start to drift a little bit, and you don't realize how much ground you're covering. But they win the game going away. It's not a big deal. The play he made last week on the bounce of the punt was outstanding. So he's making great decisions, and that's what it's about. And, of course, with Bass, special teams player of the week after a 61-yarder franchise record to win a game. It's pretty good. They beat a really good Miami offense last week, and it took everything they had to do it, even at home. So special teams had a part in that. I like the fact that the weather's turning a little bit windier and a little bit colder because I'd like Codrington to get a shot at returning some kicks.
At the same time, that raises my only concern. The kick coverage unit has largely resorted to kicking touchbacks. Bass leads the league in touchbacks with 43, I want to say. As it gets colder, that's going to be harder to accomplish, which means you're going to have to press your coverage unit into action to make tackles. Now, you have some indoor games coming up here. You got Detroit late in the season. That's inside, so it's not a concern. You got the Rams late in the season. That's inside. That's not a concern. But at the end of the year, with 2 against New England, 1 against the Jets, those are all going to be outside in cold weather. You got to get your coverage unit ready to make tackles.
They are completely unproven. I mean, they have really not had to cover kicks.
Very infrequent.
They got to get some reps.
Yeah.
And now it doesn't mean they can't do it and they won't be good at all that, but they got to prove it.
Yeah.
I mean,
and it's an unknown.
And it is an unknown. And the best teams on special teams are the ones that play them the most because they're really hard in practice, in training camp. Even when you go out there and you're trying to do it well, you can't go 100%.
Mm-hmm.
The best teams are the ones that play special teams the most. It's that simple. That's why the teams that get scored on a lot have the best kickoff return. Invariably. It's always the case because they get live reps nobody else does. The Bills have not had any live reps covering, or not enough live reps covering kickoffs. We'll see how that goes.
As for the Bills' efficiency overall, according to ESPN Analytics, they're 4th behind Detroit, Minnesota, and Pittsburgh. On offense for efficiency, also 4th, trailing only Baltimore, Washington, and Detroit. On defense, they're 13th in efficiency, with 6 AFC teams ahead of them, including Houston, Pittsburgh, and Kansas City. Special teams, 15th in efficiency. Collectively, the efficiency number is good, as well as offensively. Now, we should mention that the efficiency rating does take into account the quality of the offenses faced. But the defense would seem to have some work to do between now and the postseason. Yes, they have to get healthier, but where do you think they most need an uptick in consistency of play? Defensive side of the ball.
You'd love to see him stop the run better.
Yeah, right.
That's the thing, and I get it. There's been some of that has been by design. They face a lot of runs because they don't get out of that nickel, and teams feel like they can make hay against it. I think it has been one reason teams have struggled to score as many points as they have against other teams because they just don't get as many opportunities.
Yeah.
The Bills take the ball out of Tua's hands, and he's got to hand it to Mostert and the running back, Achane. I think some of that is self-inflicted and philosophical for Buffalo. They need to stop the run better, but they want to stop it in a way that they don't care if they stop it on. It sounds crazy. They don't want to stop it on 3rd and 3. They want to stop it on 1st and 10 to make sure it's a 3rd and 8 in the passing game. They have struggled to do that.
But to your point, there are ways in which they invite the opponent to run the ball, and that works for them because at the end of the game, what did Miami have? 8 possessions?
Yeah.
I think they only had 8 possessions. Usually you have 10 or 11. So maybe that is working in terms of points on the scoreboard.
Buffalo has been efficient. They score on 80% of their drives, of their possessions. They score points. If they can, you're just asking them to stop them like a third of the time, and that's, it's a win.
And they're number 1 in the AFC in point
let's face
differential,
it, too,
so it's
Bills,
working.
The Bills, kind of self-sabotage. The drop by Keon on the goal line going in gave the ball back to the Miami Dolphins. Two bad holding penalties, took a touchdown off. So you've got 2 drives there that end with a field goal that should have been 14 points. Then it goes the other way, and Miami goes down, drives down, gets a touchdown. So that's 14-point swing, which keeps that game very close. It's working, but their margin of error was big enough to beat a really good team like Miami, particularly offensively good team like Miami, and outscore them. I
would like to see an uptick in their pass rush effectiveness, but of course, if other teams are running the ball that much, you're not going to see the 3rd and 7s and 3rd and 8s to let your pass rush go after the quarterback. So it's kind of like a yin-yang thing here in terms of the defensive approach. It's like, sure, you'd love your defense to have 54 sacks like they did last year, but if the opponent's only scoring 20 to 24 points a game and they're only getting 8 possessions because you're inviting them to run and your run defense doesn't look great, but you're winning games and your point differential is high, it's kind of hard to argue with the whole thing.
Right. There's no question they're looking at the analytics and saying this is our best chance to win against these teams. Yeah. And they're playing that, particularly with an offense like Josh who's got that big play ability if they do get backed into a corner, they can get out. And the way their receiver room has started to emerge and become more reliable and more dangerous, I think they feel good about they don't mind being in a close game in the early going. And certainly with slow starts they've had, they shouldn't. But you can feel this big philosophical, foundation they've got where they don't care about not having the ball enough.
Yeah.
They feel good about their offense's ability to hang on to it, move it, and score. And all they need is 1 or 2 stops throughout the game. And if they get a turnover, even better. Then it starts to get out of hand pretty quickly.
Finally, projected win totals. According to ESPN's analytics department, with their 7-2 start, the Bills are projected to go 12-5 this season. Their official numbers on either side of the one-loss column are 12.1 and 4.9. The only teams with a higher win projection right now are Detroit at 12.8 and Kansas City at 13.6. Buffalo still has to play both of those teams. All 3 made trades to improve their rosters. How realistic do you see 12 wins for Buffalo, knowing they have Detroit, Kansas City, San Francisco, presumably with Christian McCaffrey in the lineup, and a Rams team on the road that is still in the NFC West race?
Yeah, I'm good with 12. I think that's a gettable number for sure. That's 5-3 over the last.
Yeah, the rest
8.
of the way.
Yeah, the rest of the way. I was thinking 13-4 for this season for the Bills. And if they get into a tight race in the conference, if Kansas City were to stumble this next weekend and the Bills could beat them, that puts the Bills in the 1 seed. So that's still on the table. And then that's a highly motivating factor. And it also will change their power rankings as well. I mean, they're going to have to play as good as they have, if not a little better, and get a break or two against Kansas City, against San Francisco, against L.A. These are in San Francisco. I think, yes, 12 wins is absolutely gettable for this team. It's 5-3 the rest of the way. That to me is on the table for sure. I'll be disappointed if they go 11-6.
At the beginning of the year, I figured they could win 11 games. I thought the Jets would be more formidable. I thought the Dolphins would be more formidable this year. They were not. And so now, I'm a little bullish. I think 12 is attainable, possibly 13, but we have to remember 4 of their next 5 games are against playoff opponents from last season, including the 2 teams that played in the NFC title game.
Right.
So the road is getting a little bit tougher here over this next month plus.
I'll say this though. No matter what happens against Indianapolis and Kansas City, you go into Detroit and beat that team.
Oh, people are going to start sitting up in their chair.
That's a difference. That's a season maker right there. That's a statement game. So is the San Francisco game, although it's at home. Yeah. These next 4 games, with the bye sprinkled in and all that, and Thanksgiving and all that. This is a defining stretch of the season. We know they're a good team. We know they're headed to the playoffs. They're going to have a swing at it when the end comes, and we don't know what they're going to look like when they get there because of injuries and wins, losses of other teams, and what
not to mention seedings.
Seedings. These next 4 games will tell you what kind of chance you've got when the tournament starts, I think.
Yeah, like I said, 4 of the next 5 against playoff teams from last season, including the 2 teams that played in the NFC title game.
They're not getting any breaks. The Chiefs, the Niners, the Rams, the Lions. And I don't want to I know that everybody's like, oh, the Indianapolis is a trap game day. Well, fine. Take them off the board then. Kansas City, San Francisco, the Rams, and the Lions. If you can, I'm telling you, just go 2-2 in that.
Yeah.
And you're going to be sitting right where you want to be.
Yeah. Some final numbers to encourage Bills fans. Buffalo's playoff percentage right now is 99.6%, good for second highest in the league. Chance to win the division is 98.5%, good for best in the league, as you might expect. They have a 72% chance to advance to the divisional playoff, 42% chance to reach the AFC title game. I realize we're probably getting ahead of ourselves, but just for fun, a nearly 23% chance to reach the Super Bowl and a 12% chance to win the Super Bowl, all according to ESPN analytics after their 7-2 start. As if we haven't given you enough numbers already, we now pivot to the numbers game, where Steve will be quizzed on strong start history for the Bills.
All right, let's go.
Question number 1. How many times do you think the Bills started a season with a 7-2 record after 9 games?
Twice.
Oh, it's much more than that.
Oh, really?
Want to take another swing?
Sure, 5.
Still more. It's 10.
What?
7-2 start
Seriously?
10 times in their history.
Was I part of any of those?
Yes, you were. So, question number 2. How many Bills teams that started 7-2 or better reached the conference title game? So you know there's 10. How many of those do you think reached the conference title game?
3.
It's more.
Seriously?
Yeah.
4.
It's 6.
What?
6.
Have we been to 6 conference title games?
It's the last 6 in a row. The last 6 times they've gone 7-2 or better to the AFC title game.
Really?
Yeah. Didn't win it every time.
Wow.
Yeah. Question number 3.
Man, I'm stinking today. What is going on?
Question number 3. Chance for a big finish. Question number 3. Which one of those Bills teams that started 7-2 finished the strongest on the back half of the regular season? So we were just talking that the Bills only have to go 5-3 just to be 12-5.
1992.
You're going to say 92?
Is that right? 92.
That is not the team that we were looking for.
91 team.
Not 91.
I don't even know if those teams are on the...
They're on the list.
All right. 2020.
That's the answer, Steve. Correct. Finished their last 7 games, because they were still only 16
that 7-game
games.
winning streak, right?
6-1.
Yeah.
They went 6-1 down the stretch in 2020. None of the 90s AFC title teams ever did better than 5-2. And I think that's because a lot of times Marv was sitting guys at the end of the year, right? In the last game, you'd lose. And
very much so.
Yeah.
Now,
So that's the
you can
excuse
say
for
what you want about doing that, but man, oh man, all those teams got to the Super Bowl.
Yeah. It did work.
It worked.
Question 4. This year's team already has 6 games in which they've scored 30 points or more to lead the league after just 9 games played. Which one of the previous teams that started 7-2 or better had the most games in which they scored 30 points or more?
91.
91 is correct. There is also another year. You want to take a stab at
2020.
it? 2020. Steve, you nailed it. Strong finish for Steve Tasker.
That's what I'm talking about.
Both the 91 squad and the 2020 squad had 9 games with 30 points or more scored. Bills are going to have a look at it this year. They'll have a look at it. They got 6 already with 8 to play.
Oh, dude, they're getting there.
Yeah, only need 3 more. They might break the record.
Yes.
Might break the franchise record. So we'll have to see if they
got
get
a
to
shot
10.
at it. Yes, they might. Hard to do, but with 17 games, like you said, they're going to get a look at it. They got the Patriots twice,
Jets
again
at home.
Yeah, I'm bullish
Bullish on that?
on those guys. Yeah.
Bills fans, get in on the action with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Just download the app today to play any way you want. Plus, with live betting, you'll get updated odds on games that have already started. Best of all, you get paid your winnings fast. Make every moment more with FanDuel, official sportsbook partner of the Buffalo Bills. We turn now to our one burning question. If history repeats itself and the Bills advance to the AFC title game by virtue of their 7-2 start, Steve, who do you believe will be their opponent?
Kansas City.
Kansas
There's no
City.
other way to look at it.
Here
At
we
this
are
point,
again.
Yeah, it'll be Kansas City. They're too hard to beat. Their defense is too good. That means Buffalo will have gotten past Baltimore, or Kansas City will have gotten past Baltimore,
Right.
depending on how the seeding falls. Yeah, it's a freight train coming down the tracks, unless Bills play Kansas City in the divisional round like we've done.
Yeah. I think the only other possibility is Baltimore. And
Me
let's
too,
not
yeah.
forget, it was Baltimore and Kansas City in the AFC title game last year. But why not slay Goliath in the ultimate game to get to the big game?
Right.
Right? Like, so I think somehow, some way, it's going to be Kansas City again.
I kind of like the other way. I mean, you're right. It would be nice to beat Kansas City on the NFC Championship game and get to the Super Bowl. I kind of don't like that scenario, though.
I don't need that to happen.
I don't need it either. I don't like it happening because
Truthfully.
then you feel like you've done it. You've done everything you can do. Now you're done, and you go into the Super Bowl thinking,
Oh, you're thinking of a letdown scenario.
Yeah.
Like we finally slayed Goliath in our conference.
Now we won the
now
Super
it's
Bowl.
just, free
right?
and easy.
Then you turn up and you
then
got to play the
then
Detroit
you get
Lions or
steamrolled.
somebody. Yeah, you get steamrolled in the Super Bowl. Believe me, that happened to me. So I don't know it. So I would rather do it in the divisional round than go to Baltimore or have Baltimore come to Buffalo or whatever have you, because
Still work to
I
do.
think you still feel like you've got football to play.
So you think that changes? Even like if playing the Chiefs in the divisional round and beating them, you're not worried about a letdown in the title game,
Well, it might
much
be.
like we were discussing in the Super Bowl.
Maybe, but I think you never think. I don't think you think about the future games
Yeah.
in the division round like you do in the AFC Championship game. That's it, man. Let's go. We're getting there. So I think that's enough of
One
a difference.
more river to cross,
Exactly.
to quote somebody else. Yeah, I get it. Somehow, some way, though, I think it is going to be Kansas
Yeah, you're
City,
coming
as much
down
as
that.
I hate to say it.
Yeah, that train's coming down the
Yeah.
track. You know it is.
Our closing figures concern Buffalo's ability thus far this season to generate takeaways. The Bills are tied with Detroit for the best turnover margin in the league at plus 11. Only Washington, with 3, has fewer giveaways than Buffalo. They have 4. More importantly, Buffalo has been very proficient in making good on those extra possessions provided by takeaways. They have scored 61 points off takeaways. Only Green Bay is better with 62 points off turnovers. Finally, Buffalo has at least one takeaway in each of their first 9 games played so far this season. That is the most in the NFL. That'll do it for this edition. Make sure you subscribe to Bills by the Numbers on whatever podcast platform you use so you know when our next episode is available. Because when you need to know about the Bills, you need to check Bills by the Numbers. For Steve Tasker, I'm Chris Brown. Thanks for listening. We'll catch you next week, everybody.